Hey everybody, welcome to the Cooking Frankly channel and thank you for joining me. Today we're going to talk about how to safely handle knives in your kitchen. In our previous videos we talked about what 3 knives you need in your kitchen, how to keep those knives sharp. Now we need to talk about safety. In our kitchen we're going to be using our knives quite a bit. We want to make sure that we're safe and we don't want to cut ourselves. First off, what we want to do is not have any clothing or jewelry that might snag on something, so whenever we're using our knife it doesn't draw the knife across our hand and slice our hand. That's not going to be a good day if we cut ourselves. We've got to make sure that we don't have loose clothing or jewelry, and we'll be good to go on that. Now, another thing that I often see people doing is they might be cooking over on this side and they might go to reach for their knife. Whenever they reach for their knife, they could be reaching for the blade and grab the blade and cut themselves. So we want to make sure that we're looking at our knife, grab it by the handle. That way we don't cut ourselves. Now, another thing that I see people often doing is covering their knife. They might finish cutting something, they might wipe off their hands and throw their knife or throw the towel over their knife, and then they go back to pick up the towel, their knife's under it. If it's on an edge where it's barely covering it and they go to grab it quickly, again, they'll cut themselves. So we don't ever want to throw towels or any other things over our knives, covering them where we can possibly cut ourselves. As we're cooking, we may be dealing with different greases and whatnot. We may have these greases on our hand because we might be shredding chicken, for example, and your hands might get greasy. So we don't want to try picking up our knives with greasy hands because it'll slide back and forth and it could possibly slide up onto the blade. Again, you can cut yourself doing that as well. Now, whenever we're in the kitchen and you're in a household and there's children and doorbells and people are coming over, you have animals, you could be chopping away and get distracted either by one of those things. We want to keep our attention on what we're doing and not on what's going on around us fully. So if we lose our concentration, again, you can cut yourself. If you can't handle it while you're cutting, just stop, put your blade down, tend to what needs to be taken care of, and then come back to chopping, slicing, doing whatever you need to do, and then you'll be good to go on that. Another thing that we don't want to do is try performing another task while we have our knife in our hand. We could be chopping away, we could have pasta or potatoes or something over on the stovetop that might need to be strained off over at the sink, and you may often see people carry their knife with them, grab the pot and take it over to the sink to drain it off. Well, we don't want to do this because it's quite dangerous. Again, we can cut ourselves. So another thing, whenever we're chopping away, we may want to just give our blade a quick wipe. If you're going to use a towel or a washcloth or whatnot, we want to make sure that the blade is facing upward away from our hand. You would stick it in, pinch it, and I like to use these 2 fingers, pinch the blade and just wipe the blade clean. or you can always go right to the sink and give it a quick rinse off as well. But we don't want to have the blade facing downward towards our hand whenever we're doing this, because some knives are very sharp. They'll go right through the rag and cut your hand. So don't want to do that. Another thing that we don't want to do is, you could be busy, you can hit your knife if it's on the edge and it could start to fall. We don't want to ever try grabbing for our knife if it's falling. Just let it fall. Just let it go to the ground. Also kind of jump back a little bit, especially if you don't have covered shoes on, if you're wearing thongs or whatnot, sandals. If the knife is coming down, it could hit the top of your foot. Again, would not be a good day, so we don't want to do that. Now, another thing, we don't want to store our knives loose in drawers. If we have our knives just loose in the drawers and we're trying to find a particular knife, well, all the blades are sharp. If you're moving them around, very easily you can get cut. We don't want to store them in the drawer. We always want to store them either in a butcher's block or on a magnetic knife holder, like what you see behind me here. Now, another thing, we want to keep our knives nice and sharp. So if we're trying to cut on different surfaces, such as, like this is a stainless steel island, I don't want to cut on this. One, once it gets wet or anything, it could be very slippery trying to cut, plus the surface is rather hard. If you have different types of countertops, such as marble or granite, or different types of cutting boards as well. One of the worst cutting boards, again, would be marble, because it's very slippery. Glass is also not a good cutting board. Later on, I'll discuss different types of cutting boards that you should use in your kitchen. What'll happen is it'll dull your knives, and whenever we have dull knives just create a hazard. It's a lot more work to use a dull knife in the kitchen and a lot more unsafe, so we don't want to do that. This pretty much covers the basics for safe knife handling in your kitchen. I hope you learned something today, and you can continue watching me locally on channel 93 for Comcast and 99 for AT&T customers. You can also find me on social media sites, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Pinterest, and Google+, where you can subscribe for free and ask me questions directly. So don't forget to share, subscribe, give me a thumbs up for the videos, and keep on cooking.